Hey, what is up everyone? You've been asking for this one for quite some time. This is the YF-19 from Macross Plus. This is a new high-grade line from Bandai that started earlier on in the year, and I do have this one built already. I did build it a few months ago, and it is quite cool, but I haven't taken a deep dive into it just yet. But if you do want some of these Macross kits for your own, this one, and there is an upcoming one as well, then check out that link down there in the description because I got mine from Hobby Link Japan. Anyway, let's get right into it. So jumping now into the aesthetics, and well, this is definitely a kit that is a mixed bag. At first glance, this looks absolutely stupendous. This is a real, how can I say, beautiful high grade, but that is at first glance. It's really hard to get past the biggest issue and the most glaring issue with this particular kit, and that of course is the color accuracy. So of course, when it comes to the high grade line, there is a lot of limitations. I think nowadays when it comes to a lot of Gundam kits, Bandai are designing them in advance to work well for model kits without too much color separation. But back in the mid-90s when this would have came out, I really don't think they were thinking too hard about what kind of figure or model kit this could end up making. So that does mean we have a colossal, absolutely colossal sheet of stickers to make up for the details on this kit. So when it comes to the stickers on this, my biggest issue is more so how will they hold up over time? Will they start to peel? Especially because I feel like I've got a couple of them peeling already, one of which is on the shield, which I'll take a look at in a little while. But besides that, there is some nice detail on this. Up on the head there, that visor is in clear green. That metallic section up on the head there, as far as I know, that's how it comes. I don't think I did anything to it, but I might have. There's definitely a lot of nice actual molded detail into it that I did panel line in grey. Now I will mention that's a sticker right there as well, but it's blended into the plastic quite well. I didn't even notice at first that it was a sticker. Anyway, now into that full 360-degree spin so you can see all of the detail for yourself. Again, this does look extremely good. It is a nice model kit. It is a shame about the tons and tons of stickers, but I guess I shouldn't keep beating that dead horse. Besides that though, it does look really nice. The proportions are really cool as well. And when it does too, comparing it to the art, well, there it is side by side. Now, once again, this is done in post in editing, so I can actually see what it looks like. From what I can see, it is incredibly accurate. I have thrown the shield on there, so you can see exactly what it looks like in a fairly identical pose. And what can I say? Bandai have definitely done it. So when it comes to the size of this particular kit, there it is side by side with a standard Gundam high grade. Now it is almost the same size, but a little bit taller. Next up there is the high-grade Gundam Aerial beside it too. Now, the most interesting aspect about this particular kit right here is the fact that this is actually 1/100th scale, as in the exact same scale as Bandai's
1/100th scale, as in the exact same scale as Bandai's perfect grade gunpla.
So now jumping into the accessories, and here is everything we get inside of the box. So that is all the parts for its transformations into both other forms. We've got 5 hands in total, the 2 we had attached onto it, 2 fists here, and 1 for holding onto the weapon. We've got that weapon as well as this energy effect part in green. First off, when it comes to the manipulators or hands in here, we've got these widespread ones, which have an extremely nice pose to them. It looks really natural and really cool. This second pair then we have in here is a pair of fists. Now these aren't the usual high grade style of fists with the hole in the middle. These are an actual pair of solid fists. Lastly then we do have a weapon holding hand, which is this trigger finger holding hand. I just left it attached onto the GU-15 right there, just because there isn't really any other use for it. So let's talk about the GU-15. So first off, in case you're not that familiar with Macross, the Gatling pods, the GU-15 right here being the Gatling pod in question, are ridiculously cool weapons. And the reason why is it's actually a Gatling gun encased inside of what looks like a rifle shell. So there's a bit of an example of apparently how these things work. So there's a whole bunch of just ammunition in a kind of spiral or helix inside of it, and then a little Gatling gun in the end. That's just a fun and unique take on a rifle right there. When it comes to the actual model kit itself, it's pretty simple. We do have a sticker up front in that shiny red, but besides that, it's a fairly plain all grey weapon. Does what it needs to do though. I will also mention that the hand is at a little bit of a perfect angle right there to hold on to it. So the next thing we have in here is this also kind of spiral thingamajigger. So this right here is an energy effect part in a nice green. This is the pinpoint barrier punch. In order to use this, you do need to equip one of the fists, just like so. Like I totally forgot to mention a little while ago, these are all ball joint attachments, so they attach on super simple, and swapping out all of the fists is pretty easy. Then you just take that barrier punch part and you just attach it on in a highly specific way. So it looks like it could pop on in any way when you look inside of it, but it goes on in a very specific way. If you're having trouble holding this thing on, well, take a closer look at the instructions because it can be a little bit on the awkward side. That's what it looks like. Wham! But as for the rest of the actual accessories that are in here, these are for the parts formation into the various different forms that this can transform into, which are on the screen right now. I'm not actually going to jump into that right away because I'm going to do the articulation a little bit out of line than I normally do, because once this is transformed, I may not be transforming it back. So now jumping onto the articulation, and I will mention this is a little bit on the loose side, something I'm not entirely used to with high grades. Now I'm not sure if it was like this right out the box when I built it. I did build it back in March of this year, but never really got around to reviewing it. It does feel a little bit on the jank side. It was just left in the box, so it shouldn't really have changed too much. Anyway, posing time. So now throwing it into the usual pose that I throw kits into to test all of the articulation at once, and I'm surprised by this. This moved fluidly and nicely and perfectly into the pose and pulled it off flawlessly. So one thing about transforming kits sometimes is the transformation inside of them can really affect the posability when they are in robot mode. Batroid mode in this particular case. That is not the case here because Bandai did go for the parts formation choice as opposed to transformation. It means you have a fully fledged robot kit without all the intricacies that can lead to it being really fragile. It actually poses quite well, and even though I did mention some aspects can feel a little bit loose-ish, they don't cause any kind of trouble whatsoever. Quite good actually. So yeah, I'm playing around with this kit a little bit. It is a nice one to pose. It's got pretty much everything you could ever need wherever you would need it. So just getting it into nice kind of jumping or dynamic flying forward poses like so is incredibly easy. Standing poses work extremely well as well, and I'm not going to go through absolutely everything on it, but honestly, I don't really feel it's lacking in anything anywhere. It's very, very nice. So now moving into the transformation, or should I say transformations. Now the first step is to transform this into the Gerwalk mode. Taking a look at the instructions on this, it actually looked like it had quite a few steps in it, but it's not as bad as it initially looks. Also, it does show you in the instructions what parts you do need to add to the mix, like this and this, for this particular part of the transformation. So basically what you do is you do have to take this in half at the waist, remove this whole section right here, which is removed while it is in Gerwalk mode. Down at the lower section then you're going to be removing the crotch armor as well as these two covers off of these engine segments. Moving now to the upper part of the body, and you flip the head round and move it backwards into the body. You then add a piece into the mix, which is this part right here, which connects up in underneath the head, masking it very nicely, and we can attach the crotch armor back onto that. Now at this point I was thoroughly impressed. It was super smooth and super easy, and that's when I hit a hitch down at the legs. So first up, you push the legs up into themselves, just like so, which worked fine, but the next segment was this little bit right here. So you need to pull the leg up so you can unlock this little bit of a bend. This actually takes quite a bit of a pull to actually make this pop out, so much so that it did actually break one of the joints on me. So the joints in the thighs on this are that kind of keyhole style joint that you slot in backwards, then turn them around to lock them, and it looks like this. All there is really holding this in position is one tiny little piece of plastic, about 1 millimeter by 1 millimeter, so it can't take the force of the pull, and it ended up breaking. This is what it should look like when it does actually pull out properly, but what I had to do over on the other leg, which broke, was actually pull it out with pliers or nippers, just like so. Now this will break. Not a case of if, I can feel the second one going already. However, once you're past that point, it's time to flip up the wings like so, bring out the wings to the side. You have to add in the second aspect then, which is the cockpit part, which attaches onto the ball joint, which was the waist. Reattach on that whole upper segment we had transformed before. The base adapter now attaches into where we took the crotch armor off of, which is very smart. And finally then we attach in the GU-15. And the one thing that actually has me very impressed by this is it can actually stand up in jerwalk mode, even though it looks like it's going to be so front heavy. So finally, there's what it looks like in jerwalk mode, and this has actually been pulled off ridiculously well. There are some elements that don't look so great, like if you look at the crotch armor from below, but besides that, it does look nice. For something that is an absolutely ridiculous concept, Bandai has done extremely well. The detail on the cockpit is very nice. We've got that nice pearlescent canopy. There is a pilot figure inside, which is also really cool, and we do have some nice red detailing up front as well. All the articulation is still in the arms, but there's not really much to do. But overall, what can I say? This is nice. On to the next mode. So next up is the final transformation, and that is to fighter mode. First off, we pop off the upper segment once again, and the part that was attached into the back of it like this. Take off that little bit of crotch armor, and now we'll be introducing this big flat segment here, which will be replacing all of the upper body arm bits. This attaches in flush and perfect. Next up, you just raise up the legs, and this works out so well too. These lock into position. There's tabs all over to make sure that the legs and the wings stay in place, and they do work. They just slot into position. There's no fiddling about or trying to line things up. Lastly, then you just collapse the feet, align them up into the right angle. These also attach onto a piece so they won't move around. Flip it round to the bottom, stick that GU-15 up into the bottom, and you are done. Now, I am impressed. This worked out so well, and it looks beautiful. Again, this was no simple feat for Bandai to pull off so simply and effectively in high-grade small scale, but they did so well. So my curiosity right now is just how much left of the original Batroid mode is there once you've stripped it all apart, and it's looking like you've got the entire whole upper body and arms. I mean, like, if you're buying this just for the fighter mode, you've got half a robot left. That does feel like a little bit of waste. So this is kind of what you lose when it becomes a parts formation. That's a lot of leftover robot. So anyway, that right there is what it looks like in fighter mode. That looks extremely nice. Once again, even though it had a few shortcomings throughout the transformation, and when it comes to the color accuracy, what we have here in the end is actually quite nice looking. Finally, then you can actually pose this on the ground as well by attaching on various landing gears. You just pop out 3 little segments, they pop in, it's super simple, and that's what it looks like displayed on the ground. This is a very nice looking fighter mode right here. So anyway, that right there is it for the review. What can I say? Bandai has pulled it off, and this, like I mentioned, is no simple feat. I've built the Kotobukiya kits, at least 2 of them, and they are so complex. And the complexity is not necessarily a good thing because they're janky and hard to transform, and just in general in every form hard to enjoy. What Bandai obviously set out to do here is to make something simple that works. This works as a robot, it works as a jerwalk, and it works as a fighter perfectly. 1/100 scale, absolutely gorgeous. It does have a lot of letdowns though in the color separation, the weird aspects in the upper legs that were hard to transform, but on the whole, it is a great kit. Not an easy thing to pull off, so I'm going to give this kit gold tier. If you love Macross and Macross Plus, this is a great scale model. It's not perfect, the color separation could be better, but with more parts and more separation, it would be more fragile, so it is definitely a payoff, and a payoff that I feel works out for the better. Anyway, if you do want one of your own, I got mine through Hobby Link Japan. Let me know what Durandal Valkyrie you'd like to see first, the red one or the blue one, and I will get to that ASAP. Anyway, I will see you next time. As always, this video right here would not have been possible without each and every single one of you guys who watches my videos, and all of these awesome people right here who help out on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including 10 Soldier YT, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Dashil Marmion, Golel Rockstar, Joe, Lauren Seahack, or G95061, 10 Soldier YT again, and Van Fawn.